So is my screen visible and am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jasper. Someone?
No, I was just saying we can hear you.
Jasper, your
Oh,
voice
okay.
is breaking.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
no problem.
Team, I think you are safe and you are doing well. So most of us are working from home. So we have created a group of about 10 groups we have created, and we have chosen one team leader also from for each group. So that team member, that team leader will having the access to Azure DevOps. So I think I have already shared the details of the team and team member with you guys. So you can use the credentials of your team leader to log into Azure DevOps portal. So the URL is also shared with the team. So basically, this is the URL dev.azure.com/luluorg. This will land you to this particular screen where you will be able to where we will be doing our Azure DevOps CI/CD repository creation and project management. Everything will be handling out here. So the agenda for today's training is, let me present. Yeah. So this is the agenda for today. So we'll be creating a deployment descriptor YAML file for deploying a sample application to Kubernetes cluster. So I think you have gone through the previous video and the presentation that is available. So there we have mentioned briefly on what is Kubernetes and how the pods, services, and deployment are connected with each other. Um, I can just give you a brief intro again. So uh, this is how it will look like. You will have a Kubernetes cluster. Uh, so, so inside the cluster, we'll have pods, and pods will contain the containers. So a cluster will also have namespaces. I can say this as one namespace and this as another namespace. So port 1 and port 2 is in one namespace, and port 3 and port 4 is in another namespace. You can consider like that. So basically, that is how Kubernetes is orchestrated. Uh, so let's move on to the next one, uh, the deployment and the service. So once you are deploying some application, you will create a deployment descriptor. So that will create a deployment, which will in turn create your ports. And there is also a service descriptor, which will create the service through which only you can access the ports. So why we have a service here is because within the deployment, you can specify 3 or 4 ports for maybe high scalability. So one application can have 3 or 4 replicas in the same cluster. This is done to make the application more scalable. So you will not be able to access the application using the port alone because there are multiple instances. You will not be able to communicate with all the instances at once. So for that reason, we have a service. We can communicate only through service to these ports. And even if one port is deleted or one port dies in its life cycle, it will be auto deployed with the help of the deployment that we have just created. So this is the relation between deployment, ports, and service. So I guess you are clear with the concepts because this is the underlying concept for everything that we are going to do uh, from today. Any questions here? So we are familiar with the Docker environment. So basically the same thing, or the container concept is same here. But the only thing is that in Docker, we are starting only one container, but in Kubernetes, this is scalable. These containers, even the application is only one, it can be scalable, and it can also be auto scalable. that is based on the memory or CPU usage. This application instances can be auto scalable as we configure. Okay, I guess everyone is clear about this. In between, if you have any doubts, you can stop me and ask.
I think I have a doubt. I'm not sure it's correct or not. Am I
Okay.
audible?
Yeah. Who is this?
So normally in Docker
Anand,
when we
okay.
yeah. So normally when we deploy one Docker container, right?
Mhm.
So in this case, how it is going to work? Like all this duplicate will stop.
I didn't get that, Anand. What was that last one?
Like you said, like if we have a container, if the CPU user is more, then we will duplicate, right?
Yeah,
So in
exactly.
case if that time if we deploy something, will this duplicate have an effect or?
No. So basically, everything is managed by Kubernetes itself. You are saying Kubernetes. If you are deploying something, then you are saying Kubernetes. Okay, I have a version upgrade. I need to upgrade all the application that is all this particular application, all the instance of this particular application to Kubernetes. You are not manually doing it. You will send a command to Kubernetes saying with your deployment descriptor file. You have to create a deployment descriptor file. That is what we are going to do next. So there we will mention which application, which Docker image you have to pull. All those information you will mention in that deployment descriptor file. And you are asking Kubernetes to do that for you. So Kubernetes will uh, stop your currently running application, and it will deploy the new version of the application based on the replica count or the whatever specification that you have given. So even if the CPU usage is more and the ports are replicated up to 10, you are not going to make all the application down at once. Kubernetes will be deploying like it will delete one port first. So your 9 ports are there, still serving the requests coming, and it will deploy one port with the updated code. Then it will delete the second one and will deploy the second one. Like that, it will manage itself. So you will not have the user will not be affected by this. You will have zero downtime.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. So we are going for Azure Kubernetes service, that is AKS, that is a cloud one, and the Kubernetes, the open source Kubernetes that we are not using, we are using Azure's Kubernetes service. This is also I have mentioned last time. The namespace. So as we know, the namespace is created. Inside the namespace, we can create the deployment and the ports. So cluster is divided into different namespaces. Inside the namespace, we have our application. That's how you can see that. So for example, if we are going with our concept, we have a Yo2 namespace and we have another namespace called Yom namespace. So this is how you can differ in our real world scenario. So Yo2 will contain all the applications of the Yo2 and Yom will contain all the applications of Yom. Okay. So today's agenda is this. First, we'll create a deployment descriptor YAML file. Then we'll create, we'll start this application with this deployment descriptor with kubectl commands that will directly go to the server, and we'll start it over there, and we'll see this thing is really working. After that, we'll come back to our DevOps, our Azure DevOps portal. There we will create a CI/CD pipeline, and with the help of CI/CD pipeline, we will deploy the same application. So we can experience both the command line tools and the pipeline tools. And we'll mention the difference between the load balancer and the cluster IP and how to use it in the deployment descriptor. And we will give an intro on the stateful deployments of containers and the persistent volumes. That means if you want to persist some data, and that data should not be deleted even if the container goes down. So how we will manage this? So this will be done with the help of persistent volumes. In Docker, we used to do this with volumes. So the same concept is here. but Kubernetes manages that in a different way. Okay. Okay. So ready? So we'll go with the deployment descriptor. I'm really excited. Okay. So right now, I will show you a few commands of how the applications that are currently deployed in our cluster. So basically, this is how you log into your cluster. I'll go from the start. So these credentials we have already shared with you. So this is how you can log in into the DevOps machine. So DevOps machine is nothing, but that is not where your Kubernetes lies. The Kubernetes is in a different machine sitting somewhere, but you cannot access the Kubernetes directly. You can access it only through the DevOps machine or a gem server, whichever is applicable. So we'll come on to what is gem server and what is DevOps machine later, maybe in the later sessions. So for now, we can understand that we can access Kubernetes only through a DevOps server, and we are going inside that server with SSH. So it is asking for password. Good, I'm inside that server. So I'm basically running a kubectl command. So these commands I have given in this slide itself. So common Kubernetes commands. So with these commands, you will be able to do pretty much operations that are good for you to go with and deploy applications in your environment. So kubectl get PO, and there is a namespace. We are inside a cluster, so that cluster is divided into different namespaces. Shane, are we recording this? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So this cluster that is divided into different namespaces. So each time when we are giving some commands to the Kubernetes, we have to mention the namespace. So right now I have a namespace here that is already created. So that namespace is called the training namespace. That is training NS. So I am running a get pods. PO is nothing, short form of pods. So I'm asking Kubernetes to list me all the pods that is there in this particular namespace. That is training NS. See, so there are 3 pods that are currently running. One is AKS Hello World, something like that, and the test app. So this is the application, sample application that I have created. So we'll be deploying these applications. So we can do one thing also. We can make this namespace default. So there is some commands for doing that. We can set the default namespace as training NS. So I have done that earlier. So if that is my default namespace, then I don't have to mention that -n. So for now, I won't be mentioning this -n command from now. So because I have already set this as my default namespace. So I don't remember that command. Otherwise, I will have shown you. So if you Google, you can see how to set a default namespace. So that is how we set that namespace. So if you are doing kubectl get PO command, it will list all the ports that are currently there. So we mentioned about the deployment and the service also. We can list deploy and the services that are currently present in our system. So kubectl get deploy will give you all the deployments. So here you can see for each pod there is a deployment. There is a deployment found for each pod. So even if I'm going to delete one pod, this deployment will make sure that it is recreated. kubectl delete PO. So I'm going to delete this particular pod, and let's see if that is created. So this is now it is created 161 minutes ago. So let's see if it is recreated. Get PO. see, something happened to our pod, and Kubernetes understood that this pod is deleted, or some error occurred and the pod is down. So we need to recreate that pod. So that is done automatically by this deployment that is already present in the system. So that's how it is recreated 7 seconds ago. So if someone deletes the deployment, then what will happen? Can anyone say? I will delete that. Delete deploy. Start. See, so if the deployment is deleted, the corresponding pod will also get deleted. You can see that it is trying to terminate it. So if you do that get PO command again, then you cannot find that pod here. So when the deployment is deleted, the pod is also deleted. So other than the deployment and the pods, we have one more thing, that is SBC, the service. So service is the interface which connects between your real world and the pods. So we have a service test type also deployed here. I will just delete that application also, and that service also. kubectl delete test type. Delete. You have to mention what type, what kind is that. So that is SBC test type. So okay, that service also I deleted. Now we will recreate the test application. So for that, I will just create a folder, my test app, and I'm going inside my test app. And for deployment, 2 files are necessary. One is a deployment descriptor, and another one is a service descriptor. If we go inside the deployment descriptor, this is how a deployment file will see like. So this is analogous to your Docker Compose, where you mention your image, the Docker file, everything, the environment variables. So all those things you mention in your Docker Compose. So this deployment descriptor is somewhat similar to your Docker Compose. So you can always create a deployment descriptor if you have a Docker Compose, and if you know how to create it. So here the kind is always a deployment. This is very important because it's a deployment descriptor. And the metadata, spec, match labels, everything, these all are mentioned, the application name and the namespace onto which this is going to deploy to. And if this application need to be connected by another pod or something, then this is the label that we are giving for this application. And we are mentioning the replica count, that is 1 here. So if you want, you can mention the replica count as 3 or 4 or 10. So that many pods will be created at the time of when you are starting this deployment. So inside the containers, we mentioned the container name. So this deployment descriptor can have multiple containers, as I have mentioned earlier. The containers, there can be 1 or 2 containers, or 2 or many containers inside a pod. So you can mention all the containers and below these containers level. So there, the test app name I have given, the image name also I have given. So this is pulling the data from training AZR, that is an Azure Docker Hub registry. So currently we are using a Docker Hub registry that is created, that is self-hosted by us. But for now, in this deployment using Azure DevOps, we'll be using Azure's own container registry. There we have already deployed or already uploaded the image for this test application. So we will be pulling that particular image here. And we have mentioned the image pull policy as always. And these are all, this is how we give in a Docker Compose itself. The request, the memory usage, the CPU usage, everything is given here. And the environment variables, if you want some environment variables to be passed to your application, that you can mention it here. And port, this is very important. This port should be same as that of your application port that you are exposed to. So this will expose that particular port outside the container. So 8080 port is my application port. So I have exposed that application port as a container port to the outside world. So we will be accessing or Kubernetes service. There is a service YAML or service descriptor there I have mentioned earlier. No? So that service will be accessing this Kubernetes ports through this port only. So this is how a deployment descriptor looks like. Any doubts here? So this is a simple descriptor. You can do much more with deployment descriptor, but I have made it very simple for your understanding and for the ease of training. So we'll be yeah.
Yeah, Firman here.
Yeah, Firman, yeah.
When we create more than one replicas, what about the container port? Is it still
Yeah,
active?
container port. Yes, good question, Firman. Container port will be same, but we will be maintaining how this container port will be connecting to the outside world through this one, through the service YAML. So as I mentioned earlier, I'll go back to my slide. Where is service? Yeah, you can maybe I can explain with this. I'll try to do that. So there will be, as Firma mentioned, there will be multiple ports deployed like this: port 1, port 2, port 3. All will have the same source code and same images, but multiple replicas of the application that is created. So I guess everyone understood what Firman is asking. So if all the ports are deployed in the same port, then how we can say that how it will be accessed through the outside world? So that will be taken care by this service, which is sitting above the ports. So we have a service YAML file which says that whatever request coming to this service port should be served in between these ports based on its availability and the algorithm that we are mentioning. So this is how it is connecting to different ports with the same port itself. Is that clear, Firman?
Yes.
So this is the service YAML file. So here we are mentioning the app selector test tab. So this should be same as the match labels given here. So this service is talking about this particular deployment. That is what this service YAML and this selector specifies. So the namespace again here is the training NS, and the name of the service deployment is the service descriptor is always test app that we are going to create. Then the ports which are being exposed. So what I'm doing is the port of the service is 6500, and I'm routing this 6500 port, whatever request that is coming in my 6500 port, to 8080 port. So that will route to this container port. So the container port is the target port here. And here is one interesting thing, that is the cluster IP. This cluster IP, this can be a cluster IP and it can also be a load balancer. So we'll mention both. So first I will show you how we can deploy using a load balancer, and we'll come to the difference between both. So I have these two files. I'm going to copy this, and we'll first do with the commands itself. We'll go the old school way. Vi deploy dot YAML. So I'm creating a deployment descriptor file, and also a service descriptor file I'm going to create. I will give the full name, service. So I have created both files. You can see it here. So you can see here kubectl get PO. And there is no test tab given here. So I'm going to deploy my test application. So we can see that if it is running. kubectl apply -f. So I have to deploy both the files. So for that reason, I'm not mentioning any file name. I'm just mentioning /. So that will take and deploy all the YML descriptors that is present in this particular current folder. Usually I should also mention the namespace, but I have said earlier, I'm not using namespace because I have kept it as a default namespace. So I'm doing this command. And you can see one deployment is created and also its service is also created. So first thing we'll see if deployment is created. kubectl get deploy. See, one deployment is created, and we'll see if pod is running. Yes, one pod is running. And if you want to check the logs of the pod, then you can use this command kubectl logs -f. So this is similar to your docker logs command. So there we use docker logs -f, the container name. Here we use kubectl. The only thing that is different is the kubectl and the docker. Many of the commands are same. So even you can do an execc command. So we'll check the logs first. See, so the application is started. And if you want to go inside that particular port, you can use the same command as docker, that is execc -it and sh. So you are inside the port. Pretty much simple as docker. So there is nothing new about this now. Okay. Next thing I want to share you with this one. Why I mentioned here the load balancer. So kubectl get SPC. I have mentioned service is how you will connect to your ports. So you can see here the test app is a service, and the type of that service is a load balancer type, and we have a cluster IP. Cluster IP is always internal. You will not be able to access that cluster IP outside a cluster. So we also have an external IP. This IP you will be able to access from outside. So this IP is pointed to 6500. And no, the application is pointed to 6500. So I will check if this application works or not. Yes, it works. So this is my application that I have created. Nothing, just a blank test project. So it's working. So, but you always cannot give this external IP as such, because each external IP that you are creating adds cost to our infrastructure. And also it is not always very secure to use external IPs as we don't have a control over it. Most of them are created by ourselves now, so we won't be able to control it. So we will restrict the IP to cluster IP itself, and we will find a way to route to this particular cluster IP using some other methods. We'll see how that will work. So basically, I'm going to delete the application that we have created. kubectl get deploy. So maybe that we can cover later. Okay, for now we'll delete the deployment. Deployment deleted. Service also will delete. SPC. What was the service name? This one, same. Okay. kubectl delete SPC test app. So the service is also deleted. So now we will try the same thing with the pipeline, Azure pipeline. So this is how basically you will deploy an application in the Kubernetes cluster using kubectl commands. So pretty much simple, right? Any doubts here? Next, we are going to deploy it using the Azure pipeline. So the only thing that will be changing is instead of load balancer, you can use the load balancer itself for deploying using Azure pipeline. It doesn't have any anything relating to that, but I will suggest, as we have already experienced what is load balancer, we will just go for the cluster IP itself. So basically, this application I have created inside the Azure DevOps project, the training project. You can, if you have access to this, you can just go through the repo. You can find the YAMLs here. Not this one. You have to change the repo to training project. Yeah, this is my source code. Everything is here. So this is my deployment YAML file and also the service file. You can refer this later. So the first thing that you have to create when you have to deploy some application to Kubernetes cluster using Azure DevOps is first you have to commit that project. Anyway, you will be doing that. Commit that project to Azure Git, or you can use any other Git also. But we are moving slowly. We are moving every application to Azure DevOps, so it's better you compare with Azure DevOps repos and Git. So it is better that you commit your codes here and test. So here we have all the applications and the deployment descriptor, and we have a pipeline also here. This is the pipeline section, pretty much simple or similar to what we have in our GitLab. So we have a pipeline there. So the same things follows here. We have a Git repository and we have a pipeline. So we will be creating a pipeline to deploy this application. So training project CI. So this is the pipeline that I have already created. Short training session. Ruhail. Shane, can you please send to Ruhail? Shane, you there?
Akhil, hello.
Can you send link to Ruhail? Ruhail, he's asking.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the training project CI that we have created. So I'm not going to create a new pipeline. If you guys suggest, I'll create a new pipeline altogether. But we already passed 40 minutes, so it's better we can just see what all there inside the pipeline. So next we will create that. So there, the first thing that we will be creating, you can always clone this application now. This pipeline session, you can always clone it. There is a clone option available. You can clone it, and all the tasks that I have created inside the pipeline, that will come to your new CI. So that doesn't matter. So basically, we have one CI and the CD. So CI is where your build takes place, the creation of your jar and the Docker image that you are creating, that you are pushed to the Docker registry. So everything, that kind of things happen inside the CI section only. So that is inside the pipeline. The pipeline's here. So that happens there, and the release, that the deployment, the actual deployment of the application to your Kubernetes cluster, that will happen inside the release. So first we'll check what is a pipeline, CI pipeline. So inside the CI pipeline, I have created these many tasks. So you can create more tasks also. You just have to create an add agent job. So inside an agent job, you can create many tasks. So what is an agent job? So agent job, it is nothing but you can see what is an agent code. When you QA build, when a build is being executed, an agent selected from the pool will be able to do all these jobs, this Gradle build, and also the moving this pipeline artifact to a different location, and building and pushing the Docker image. So everything will be started or built inside a particular node or machine. So that machine we call as an agent. So we have to create a agent and we will have to assign that agent to our Azure DevOps. So we have already done that. So that will be taken care of by our infra team. So we don't have to worry about that. So they have already created us one agent. So we are just using that agent. So this is that agent training pool that we have created. So this training pool, this agent will be connecting to, maybe that will be also a application or some agent that is running in our DevOps machine. So the build and everything will happen inside this DevOps machine. So this DevOps machine is connected to this Azure DevOps using this agent pool only. So if there are more agent pools available for me. For me, I can choose the Yoto Reactive DevOps. I have access to these pools. I can use one of these pools to do my job done, to get my job done. So I'm using the training pool itself. So basically, why I use this is because I need to connect with this DevOps machine and do the build. So I have used that tool, and this is where you the get sources command. Is where you get your source code from your Git repository. Here you mention the training project, which branch. This is the default branch. You can choose the branch when you are building. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, okay, hello.
Yeah, Pranav.
Yeah, what about the running process? Is it a serial or parallel? Gradle Y clean build after that move, or is it parallel? So you can run move release
No,
first.
no. This is not parallel, Firman, because our agent, I think we can also mention the parallelism here, but for now I don't think that is the best way, because after the Gradle build only you will be able to push that to the Docker, right? So you have to classify it like that.
Yeah.
So if your jobs are to be done parallelly, you can configure it like that. But again, I think that is something matters with the subscription. Parallel jobs, I think we have to pay more to Azure or something. Some subscription need to be given. So for now, per organization, I guess, or per cluster or something, we have only one parallel jobs that will be available. So this will be run one by one only. So first a Gradle build will occur, then YML will be pushed to the pipeline artifact, then the build and push will occur. Okay.
So we can change the order from here.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You can change this order. Move release YAML to pipeline. That depends on
Okay.
how you configure, because you will not be able to push to Docker before the Gradle build. So that doesn't make sense, right?
Okay.
You have to first create the build. That jar only you will need to be pushed to the Docker registry. Otherwise, there is no point in building now. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions here? Okay. So this is how the Gradle build occurs. So you can choose from any other jobs. So even if your Node.js application, so once you have added a agent job, you can just click on this and you can choose from many of the utilities that are given here. So you can mention a Gradle build. It's already there that we have done. Otherwise, you can use an npm. Npm is also there. So you can choose your build tool to build this application. So inside that build, you have to specify the common things that you know how it will be. So this is just a display name. You can give anything here. That doesn't matter. So I have used the same command here. That's all. So there is a Gradle wrapper. I have to mention where the Gradle wrapper is. So those who have built a Spring Boot application using Gradle wrapper knows what this is. So inside the project itself, there is a Gradle wrapper available. You can use that wrapper to build the same project. So that's how the Gradle wrapper works. And the working directory, I have to mention. These all things you can choose from your repo, right from here, the 3 dots that you can click and you can choose your source application that is in here. You have to build it there. So which all tasks you have to perform using this Gradle. So clean boot jar that you have mentioned. Then publish to Azure pipelines these many artifacts. So JUnit test, if you want, you can skip for now. So these things are there. Then there is a move release YAMLs. So the YAMLs or the deploy or service YAMLs that just we have created that you can move to your one of the pipelines, the pipeline build artifacts. Just like in Jenkins, we have a workspace. In Azure DevOps, we call it as a pipeline artifact. So we move it to that particular artifact. So it will lie under that particular build ID. So in the CD, when you are pulling that artifact, when you are building the particular CD for the CI, then you will be able to mention that I need the artifacts from this particular build artifact folder that you can mention. That's why we are pushing this deployment artifact to a particular CI pipeline artifact. So that is the configuration here. You can go through this and refer and do your pipeline. So the build push command. So it is just pushing your build that. So basically, you need a Docker file that should be already present in the application. So this is my Docker file. It will just pull a base image from OpenJDK 16. Then copy the source file to app.jar. Then it will run. It will have this command java -jar app.jar. So that will start my application. So those things you can mention your Docker file, and the Docker file name you can mention it here, and the build tags that you can provide here, and the command to use, build and push command, that you can select from here. So pretty much everything is simple. Everything you can add the jobs here and you can run it. You don't have to know anything. You just have to add the jobs and just configure. That's all. So that's how you create a CI. Now this particular CI have a counterpart, that is a CD where the actual deployment takes place. So I have two CDs configured here. In pipeline also I had two pipelines, two CI pipelines. One is Ingress and the training project that we are working on. So in the release also we have a corresponding CD for the training project. I'm going to edit that. Any doubts in pipeline creation, CI pipeline creation? Anything? So if I have time, I will just scratch. I will create this pipeline from the scratch. Maybe we are running out of time, so I'll just quickly go to the release. So in the release, there is an artifact part and the stages part. So artifact is where you are pulling the artifacts from your particular okay, yeah, distractions, yeah, particular build. So while creating the artifact, I'll just delete this artifact. I'll just delete the artifact and I will create the artifact again. So this is how you are adding an artifact. So I am mentioning the project I'm going to use is the Node.js Reactive. I'm using the training project. So the source of the pipeline that I'm going to use is the training project CI. So this is the name of the pipeline that I have used earlier. So I selected that, and the source areas, it is pointing to this. So from this is where my pipeline artifacts will lie. So I'm pulling my image from there. So that is done. And we have a symbol of Thunder here. You can see it here now, the continuous deployment trigger. You can click it there and you can turn it on. So what this particular thing will do, whenever there is a build or CI build that is happening for this particular training project, then after that build, this continuous deployment trigger will trigger this CD pipeline automatically. And here you can mention the build branches here. So you can include only master, only if there is a change in or the master branch is built by the CI pipeline, I need to build this particular CD, that you can mention it here down here. So for now, I'm not using that. I'm just using the continuous trigger. So that is done. And inside the stages, you have to create a stage. So there inside one job, two tasks. You can create stage from here now, the add button. So there, the empty job, you have to choose the empty job. That's all. So inside, you have to go inside this job and edit whatever you want. So for now, I will go inside this job. I will just delete this. So you understood how to create a stage. That is what matters. So we'll go inside this particular job. Job 2 task. So inside the stage, what it is given. This is nothing but a stage name. You don't have to worry about that. The next one, oh, I have taken the wrong one. Ingress div. I don't have to use that. I should use the training project only, right? Did I change something? No. We are safe. Okay. Okay, I'm going inside the training project CD. The same thing there. The same thing mentioned. So inside there, the training project CD. There I have stage name, the agent. So this is again, we have to choose one agent where I can run this build. So Azure DevOps, you cannot run anything inside this DevOps portal. It doesn't give any, it gives something. Azure itself gives some agents. If you pay for them, they will give you agent where you can run. Even then, you have to choose from here. You have to choose the Azure pipelines, and if your subscriptions has the agent pools, you can use that. Otherwise, you have to create an agent pool just like I did. You have just like our infra team did. I didn't do that. So we can create an agent in Azure machine itself. So if you go to the, see, there is a my agent here. So I guess this is how they have done it. I haven't gone into the internals, but I think this is how they have created the agent here running. So they have configured that agent in our DevOps also, DevOps portal also. So that's why we were able to select the agent from the pool. Agent pool we have selected. And these all things artifact download from where? These all things will come automatically because the artifact we have already chosen. And the download pipeline artifact, this job we should add to download the artifacts to our build agent. So the artifact name that follows is the training YAMLs. So this is the name that I have given in the CI itself. So there we have given mentioned one artifact name now. If you should I go there and show you? See the artifact name, the same name I should give here also. So this knows that from there I should bring in the artifacts, all the artifacts I should bring in and paste it to the destination directory. So you can mention the destination directory other than the pipeline workspace. You can mention the full name also. That is up to you. You can mention slash my path. Some people do like this. So if you check in U2 reactive and all, you can see something like that. So that is totally up to you. No, the destination directory should be the same. Okay. This only, but yeah, here only we give that the particular file path. Yeah, we'll come to that. So the kubectl apply command, then we are running. So we have to choose the kubectl job, and we will be adding that. So the command that I have done here to start the application, which was that command? If you remember that, that was a kubectl apply command. Yeah, the kubectl apply command. This command you can run from the pipeline itself. So anything that you do from the command line, you can do it from here also. That's why we are configuring this. So here the kubectl apply command, this is just a display name, that doesn't matter. So this is a service type connection. So using this service connection only, we will be connecting, the DevOps machine will be connecting to the Kubernetes cluster. And this is the namespace. This is the service connection, and this is the connection type. It's a Kubernetes service connection. So this is the service connection that we will be using. And the namespace, you can provide it here, or you can provide in the deployment descriptor like I have given. That is totally up to you. If you're given in the deployment descriptor, you don't need to give it here. You can give it here also, that doesn't matter. So I'm not giving that now. So the command that I need to run for this particular job is apply. So I'm doing that apply. And here, what it is mentioning, from the default working directory, I have to go inside the training CI, then training YMS, inside the dev. So this is my training project, inside YMS, inside dev. I have my deployment descriptors. So that is where my deployment descriptors will be there. In that particular file path, I need to do this apply command. So that kubectl apply will work. And the kubectl set command, you don't need to be worrying about for now. You just need to study about study up to here. I'm just disabling that. Kubectl apply command I have disabled. Set command will come to that later. So I'm saving that. I'm going to start a build. Let's see. On the pipeline, CI, training pool. So it's just again asking which pool I should use and which branch I should use for the particular build. So again, I can do this automatically. I don't need to start this pipeline manually by clicking this button. I can do that automatically using a pipeline trigger. CI. There is another, but and there is a button or checkbox here for the pipeline, CI pipeline also. So if I enable this continuous trigger for this master branch, whenever a commit comes to my master branch, this particular build will be auto triggered. So for now, I'm going to do that manually. Oops. I should go inside training project, run pipeline, training master branch. Yeah. So our agent is running that particular. So should we delete this post? Did we delete? Yeah, we deleted everything now. So it should be auto created. kubectl get PO. Right now there is no test application. Now the build is running. After that, So any doubts here up to here? Everyone is clear. So next week, can we create a pipeline and deploy something to our training cluster? Everyone is confident about that. So that the task will be that to create a pipeline using CI/CD pipeline using Azure DevOps, and you need to start an application in the Kubernetes cluster. One sample application. You can even clone the same application, that is fine, but one application that should be started in AKS cluster. We will have 1 week time for that. So the pipeline CI is started, and it went very well, and it is successful. Now we'll come back to the release. The release is running. It's auto triggered, like we have configured it. So that part is also successful. Now we'll see. Yeah, the pod is started. Now we'll come back to the SVC part. See, last time in the test app SVC, we had an external IP for the test app. I'll just go back. See, for test app, we had an external IP. Why was it so? Because in SVC, in the service deployment YAML file, we have given the load balancer. Just now we changed that to cluster IP itself. So the load balancer, what it will do, the service itself will act as a load balancer, and it will it will give an external IP through which we will be able to access the particular deployment file. But if you don't give the load balancer and use a cluster IP, it will expose a cluster IP for you. That cluster IP or the using that particular service name or the cluster IP, you should be able to connect with that particular application. So for now, I used only cluster IP. So the external IP is none, but I have a cluster IP that is created. So here comes the part of ingress. So Shane, do we have time for that?
Yes, if everyone is okay, we can.
Yeah, guys, is everyone okay? We have one more, I think one more slide for ingress. Yes. Yeah, ingress is there. Then stateful deployment, maybe cover later. Persistent volumes also maybe we'll cover later. But ingress, I think you should know about that. Okay, we can consider ingress as a router. So we have an Nginx router. We know many routers and all. So we can consider ingress as a router. So that will route to our particular service based on the context. So this mydomain.com, who.mydomain.com, you can mention like this ingress controller will route to one of your service, and mydomain.com/bar, it will route to another service, and any other request that is coming to this ingress. So that will be routing to another service. So ingress is a controller which routes to your services. So we can consider like that. So we haven't made this service, we haven't exposed the IP for this particular service, but we will be exposing the IP for our ingress controller. So ingress will lie in the same cluster. It will route to our services. So we have an ingress configuration also. Particularly, this ingress configuration will be done by our infra team. So I'll just show you how the ingress configuration file looks like. So basically, this is our ingress configuration file. So here we have mentioned this is the namespace training NS. This is the namespace where this ingress will die, and hello, this is the ingress name. So the kind that here in this deployment descriptor that we have mentioned is ingress itself. So if you look into the service deployment and deployment files, the kind was deployment. Here it was service, but in ingress, the kind is ingress itself. So these are our annotations that we use to route the ingress. So whichever these all things have meaning, I'm not going deep into that here in the. So I'll focus only on this. So what I have mentioned here is, whenever a request that is coming to ingress controller with a context of test app, I should route that to a service called test app with the service port as 6500. So this is what we want, right? So I just need to find the IP address of my ingress. Then I need to pass this context. Then it will route to my particular application. So how can I find the IP address of my ingress? There is a command called kubectl get ingress. Yeah, so this is the ingress that I am using. My ingress address is 52.172.25.160. So I'm going to route to that application. What was that? Test app. See, I routed it to ingress. I routed to my application. And does this work again? No, it doesn't work. It's just loading. So we have routed it through the ingress controllers. So any doubts here till now? Everyone is clear. So our task will be creating one sample application, just like we did. You can use this training project itself. You can use in the Azure DevOps. I think everyone have the login. You can use your team leader's login. You can create a training project. At least one project from one team should be there. You create a sample project. For your project, you create a pipeline. You can create it from the scratch using a new pipeline. But here it will ask you how you want to create. You can use the classic editor. You can choose your project, then click on continue. You can create an empty job, and your pipeline is ready, and means it is ready for you to add the task. So you can add the task like I have done earlier. Otherwise, you can just clone this project, clone this pipeline, and do that. That is completely up to you. If you want to learn more, you can create from the scratch, or you just need to clone it from here. You can create it like that. Once you create a pipeline, you have to create the release also, and that's how you deploy your application. For creating a new project or repository, you can use this button, new repository. Your team leader who is there, they will create a repository for you. We'll ensure that he has access to that. So you can use the same project, or you can use a different project. That is up to you. But you should deploy at least one project in the Kubernetes cluster, and it should be routed through the ingress. For ingress routing, if you have any doubt, you can contact me. But at least you can use the load balancer IP. But I suggest not to turn on the load balancer IP for a long period, because it will add to our cost. Because each static IP that we are using will add to our subscription. So please don't use load balancer IP for testing for 5 minutes or 2 minutes. You can use, but after that you make sure that you turn that off. Other cases, use the cluster IP itself. The cluster IP, with the cluster IP, you will be able to route it through the ingress. So if you have any doubts in routing through ingress, you can come back to me. Maybe I have done it so fast, but I have made sure that everyone get the deep knowledge of everything. So that's why I have covered only little in 1 hour. So make sure that you use that to your maximum. If you have any doubts, please ask me. You can contact other team members also who have worked in this Azure DevOps. We are open to it, because our next projects, maybe we will be moving to Azure DevOps. So we need everyone to be using Azure DevOps, and you should be able to take the logs, and you should know about what is Kubernetes. So everything you should know and you should learn. Okay. Anything else? Any doubts or any clarification needed? Shane, I guess.
Agil, yes. Agil, I think we are good. If anyone has any clarification, or if you have anything, you can contact Agil, or anyone in your team can contact him. So
yes.
Thank you everyone for joining this session, and Agil, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Shane. And also, you can make use of the WhatsApp group. You have any doubts, you can clarify it using the WhatsApp group. Team members, I think all team members can be added to the group. So team leaders, make sure that your team members are added to that group, so we can discuss it there. Anything is fine. Even if you discuss this with your team and come up with the topics, I can share you my insights on that. That is also fine. But only thing is that you can clear doubts in WhatsApp group if you want, or you can call me directly. I can also help you on that. Okay, Shane, thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.